Hello, this is Jeff from Studio 41 Gaming, and here we are with the next 41 show episode. And this has been a long time coming. This video, I haven't been requested to exactly do too many videos, but this has been the one that I've had several people request me to do, and that is talk about Diablo 3 and why I honestly do not think it is a very good game. I've been, even every time I have talked out against this game, people have requested this video, and it also has been that video that I mentioned, Diablo 3, and has been downvoted to oblivion. So, sorry for the delay, but let's, without further ado, get into this, because this could take a while. So, the first thing with Diablo 3 is, yes, it is on this background that you will be seeing in these videos, the video versions of these little talks, but it is there because, well, at one point I did really like this game, but the more I played it, the more I just saw it, the flaws, and why I just, after a while, just really fell away from it. And honestly, I can't stand it now. Anytime new season starts, I'll usually get a couple of my friends will ask, "Yeah, we want to play Diablo 3. Get back on it this season?" No, I am not touching that game unless unless Blizzard really redoes, whichever word you want to use, a lot of the systems within the game and really revamps it. But after about a year of a whole lot of nothing coming in terms of stuff like that, I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon. But I have put a lot of time into Diablo 3. I have sunk way too much time into this game. Again, I didn't necessarily enjoy all of it, but I have sunk a lot of time into this game. And for a while, I did just play it because we had a group to play with, or I had a group to play with some of my friends, and we would play a season and just 4-player run through Greater Rifts a bunch. So it is a lot more fun with friends. But let us get into the real meat of this video, though, and see why this game really is not that good. And again, with these videos, if you have questions, want to add on, as always, I'm watching the chat. I have the chat up right in front of me right now, so if anybody ever has anything to add, go ahead and add it. But first, problem I have with this game, and believe me, there are a lot, and these aren't in really any order. That was just how I thought of them and put them down. But the first problem, the story. By story, I mean, holy crap, we're stretching the meaning of the word story by calling this a story. The story in Diablo 3 is bad. That isn't to go against the lore. There is a difference between story and lore. The lore in Diablo 3, I think, is pretty good. It's probably the single best thing about the game. But the story sucks. The biggest thing I know I've seen a lot of people throw at this game is Asmodan in Act 3. He sucks as a villain. He always pops up and taunts you and tells you exactly what he is doing, despite the fact that he is supposed to be this master tactician of military, and he constantly screws up and taunts you and tells you exactly what his plan is. Another thing is Belial is totally predictable as being the little kid. Spoiler alert, not really, because I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. Deckard Cain dying, that pissed off so many hardcore fans, and I got into Diablo with Diablo 3, so I didn't really know how big of a player Deckard Cain is, but holy hell, the fan backlash against Deckard Cain getting killed by butterflies is insane. It is quite hilarious if you ever are on the dead ass forums, the dead as hell forums of Diablo 3. If you ever go on those forums and see someone talking about Deckard Cain, get ready, pop out the freaking popcorn, because this shit is, it's gonna be gold. At first, I did kind of think that Leah being Diablo was kind of cool. Then the more I thought about it, that it's really nonsensical, actually. Because Diablo's still. I don't know if he really references Diablo 2 that much, but it seems like he had an entire. This was his goal from the start, was to somehow be born from Leah, and then he's continuing that plan. So it's like, how do you know all this? But it's a very plot hole ridden. It's almost like a Transformers move. This is something I would expect in a Transformers movie. It's very over the top, and at first seems cool, but then when you really think about it, it's like, how? How does that work? So that Leah at first turning into Diablo was kind of cool because Leah was actually kind of a cool character. I kind of liked her. I know some people really didn't like her, but I had no problems with her. So, and her in the cutscene after Deckard Cain dies, all the cutscenes in this game are goddamn amazing. That's one thing Blizzard can do well, are really good cutscenes. So, her cutscene after Deckard Cain dying, I thought was pretty cool. One of the biggest problems with Diablo 3 as we move on, one of the biggest ones, no customization of your character. You can't change how they look or anything like that. Granted, they're wearing armor that looks like fucking insane, and it always is changing throughout the game, but not being able to like customize voice, how they look, like face, hair, I honestly have no idea why Blizzard did not do that. It's really, really bad that they didn't do that, because this game came out in 2012. It's not like they didn't have the means to do it. Character customization's been around for a long time. World of Warcraft, anyone? So why can't I change how my character looks in Diablo? That made absolutely no sense to me. You should be able to basically make your character you. And none of these characters had shit for backstory. They were just basically wandering around and walked into New Tristram and fell on top of this gigantic war, basically. There was a little bit of backstory, and by a little, I mean very, very little, added in Reaper of Souls. At the very end of the expansion, your character would encounter basically a ghost from their past, if you want to call it that, and they would talk to him a little bit, and it was kind of cool. To be honest, I actually really liked that. Little bit of backstory. That's all we want, Blizzard. That little bit was really cool, but it's too bad that's all you got, because it was a little drop of backstory. And with no customization, that also includes every class unlocks the exact same skills and passives at the exact same time. Well, by that I mean every character of that class will unlock the same everything. Not Demon Hunters learning the... You know what I mean. It made no sense why they took out the skill trees from Diablo 2. Going back to Diablo 2 and seeing all of that, it's like, really makes you... Even me, who didn't exactly grow up with Diablo 2, it's like, why? It's a real head scratcher. It makes no sense. Why can't I customize my build with skills and all that crap? There's no reason to restart another character. One Demon Hunter is going to unlock everything. There's no need to ever make another character. So, that's... Out of everything from Diablo 2, this is the one that makes jack shit for sense as why it was omitted. It really shows that the honestly, that the devs, Jay Wilson and them, had zero clue what they were doing. Why would you take out the skill trees? That's I don't get it. I can't think of a reason other than they didn't have a clue what they were doing. It That's all there is to it. They didn't know. There's you, racking your head about why they would omit such a humongous part of Diablo 2. It's just that they focused in other areas and honestly thought, that's not a big deal. Just, drop all that customization. Granted, no, basically, I don't think anyone from Diablo 2 actually worked on Diablo 3, so that's probably the biggest reason there. Even if one person from the Diablo 2 team was probably working on Diablo 3, they probably would have beaten it into Jay Wilson's head. Customization, motherfucker. Why do you not have it? So, moving on finally. Another big problem with Diablo 3 is bad loot drop rates. And by bad, I mean you walk outside in Diablo 3 and it is literally raining legendaries and sets from the sky. They drop way too often. Granted, for what the game is now, if they didn't drop that often, it would probably kind of be back in vanilla Diablo 3 at the very start, where, granted that then legendaries, when they did drop, there was no guarantee they were going to be anything decent. If you got a legendary in vanilla Diablo 3, there is a solid 50-50 chance it was going to be complete and utter shit. And I cannot stress that enough. It was a complete crapshoot on if they were going to be good at all. It was god awful getting a legendary in vanilla Diablo 3. Because there was a good chance it was going to not be better than the rare you were using right then. So, Diablo 3 now, though, freaking rains legendaries. There was freaking, it's like dollar bills just freaking making it rain on you. It is ridiculous how high the drop rates are. So that's something that I really, really think that needs to be pulled back, and they would have to make rares better. Yellow rares. In Diablo 2, rares were pretty good. In Diablo 3, yellows are complete and utter shit. That is something that I honestly think it. Granted, I don't know what Diablo 3 team right now is doing at Blizzard and how hard it would be to do something like this. But I think if they made buffed, I should say, blues and yellows and nerfed the drop rates on legendaries and sets, it would make the game at least a little bit easier. Make legendaries and sets again. It would make things a little bit better. Just a little bit, because you would have to hunt for gear again. And that was at least one of the big parts of Diablo 2 was hunting for gear. Granted, again, the Diablo 3 let's just say player base is probably the most cynical the hardcore Diablo fans are probably the most cynical fans of any game franchise right now, next to Halo. So it would be, any change at this point would probably piss off a good portion of the player base. So, but that's one of the things that I think would be it would at least show that they have a little bit of a clue as to what made Diablo 2 great. Would be pulling back the drop rates on legendaries and sets, and making rares and blues to a lesser extent really, really good again. So moving on, and this is another really common complaint from Diablo 3 from Diablo 2, is that Diablo 3 has zero atmosphere. Diablo 2, I know you can go anywhere and everybody says Diablo 2's music was amazing. Diablo 2's dark atmosphere was amazing. Diablo 3 has none of that. Diablo 3, Act 1 in Diablo 3 I think they did have it to maybe a lesser extent. It was still, you could definitely tell, like, all right, this feels like Diablo. So it was, Act 1 was pretty good in terms of atmosphere. Then everything else happened. Act 2 does not feel like Diablo. Running around in freaking deserts, it was hell. Diablo 3 Act 3, you kind of started to feel it again. And Act 4 being in heaven was, I'm not sure how to put it, if it was good or bad. It's probably kind of in between. And you kind of got the feeling, Act 5 at least started to really feel like Diablo again, with the entire freaking city of Westmarch basically being a death cloud. Music in Diablo 3, whoo boy. If we're talking original soundtracks, I think Diablo 3's original soundtrack is probably one of the shittiest original soundtracks I've ever heard. It's the only thing I can remember off the top of my head, and that's just because I've heard it so many times, is New Tristram's theme. That's the only one I remember. I don't remember any other piece of music from that game, because quite honestly, I don't play with it on. I haven't played with Diablo 3's music on, and really sound for the most part in general, in years. Just because of how repetitive it got. Oh my god, I would beat my head against the wall. And I actually do that for, it isn't totally isolated Diablo 3 for sports games. I turn commentary and music off after a while too, because all the commentary really repeats a lot in sports games, especially like late 2000, like 2009, 2010, like last gen commentary for sports games was god awful. About the only ones that was decent was freaking some of the Madden games. That's just because I kind of like Chris Collinsworth. But I'm getting way off topic here. The Diablo 3's atmosphere is shitty. And just hitting on it while I'm here, the graphics are merely okay. There's nothing to write home about, graphically speaking, Diablo 3. Their engine is a righteous pile. If you play a witch doctor, you may already know this. If you play a witch doctor in Diablo 3, you will probably have made the game crash at least once by now. So it is their engine they use for Diablo 3 is very inefficient. Very, seems kind of thrown together. Alright, and I'm going to need a drink before this one, because this is the crown jewel of why Diablo 3 sucks. So, quick drink break. Alright, let's do this. The biggest issue with Diablo 3. Cookiecutter builds, for the love of God. This is easily the worst thing about Diablo 3. Diablo 3, you see how the game is right now, is built around being as powerful as you possibly can be. But, and that is a Kim Kardashian-sized but, you are only as powerful as the devs say you are. And that is really the best way to put it. You are limited to that top tier set that the devs felt this patch would be the best. The last time I played Diablo 3 hard, I think it was maybe like a year ago already. God damn. It was this wizard set, and I am trying to remember it off the top of my head real quick because I didn't look it up. It was the single most OP thing I've ever seen in a video game, and I wasn't even like fully built out in it yet. It was downright ridiculous, that wizard set. Like I said, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was, I know it was with Arcane Orb. If anybody listens to this playing Diablo 3, you may know what I'm talking about, but he like threw up Arcane Orb, and it was just absolutely arcane orb, explosive blast, annihilate everything. It was really insane. It was basically the devs finally felt, all right, let's make Wizards OP. Here we put this set into the game. Have fun, boys. And as a result, if you played anything else in Wizard, you would be powerful, but you always in the back of your head would know you can be better. And that, for anybody like me who's like really competitive, is the single most torturous thing. I can't even explain it. It's like, yeah, I'm playing this set. Yes, I enjoy it. But look at my friend over here. He's using this set for the same class. He's freaking blowing up shit. Freaking just one-shotting things. I'm maybe 2 or 3-shotting. I mean, it's that for that, seeing other people do that is goddamn torturous. That's there's another way to put it. So I'm going to want to naturally go play that set. It's just better. I want the best. So every patch, unless I think I remember seeing, because I still try and keep up with what's happening in Diablo, is every patch, every season, there's going to be one set that just gets buffed, and it'll usually come at the expense of nerfing last season's top set. They would either nerf it or they would just make another set, buff it, and make it better. So it plays into power creep, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But it's lazy. There's no other way to put it. It's just lazy. Yeah, you're giving people more power, but you're buffing this set just to make it, make people feel more powerful. It's just downright laziness. You're going to put in these other legendaries that you're going to put either an affix on a pre-existing legendary that's going to add 10,000% fucking, I don't know, fire, or, oh, god damn it, what's one? Rain of Vengeance. Alright, let's just say this. You're going to add in this legendary that makes Rain of Vengeance, that synergizes with this, it's Natalia, unless they've tweaked it since then. Natalia's was a Rain of Vengeance set. You're going to add Rain of Vengeance lasts, let's just say, 2 or 3 seconds longer. And this set, let's just say this Rain of Vengeance set, Natalia set, already buffs Rain of Vengeance's damage by freaking 5,000% or something. I'm just throwing shit out here now. If it lasts like 2 or 3 seconds longer, as our fake legendary says it was, holy shit, that's pretty goddamn good. Or let's just say this other legendary makes Rain of Vengeance freaking track or something, track an enemy. It's basically breaking the customization, if you want to call that, or the builds. It's breaking the freaking game. You're making this set OP simply because it's something different. Or you're tweaking this set to make it OP to try and feign giving out content. And that's, I think, what it all really boils down to. So, moving on to the next issue, no endgame. That's a big problem with Diablo 3, is that you're basically doing greater rifts. And that is freaking it, boy. Yeah, you can do Nephilim rifts, but alright, so greater rifts are, and this really boils down to something in a game called Paragon Levels. You can do Nephilim rifts, but you're only going to basically do those to get greater rift keys, because getting your greater rift keys is, well, how you do greater rifts. And the entire point of the endgame is to do greater rifts, because of how Paragon Levels got snapped into. And that is, Paragon Levels were uncapped. You could, as soon as you maxed out Paragon Levels, which I think the soft cap is 800 if I remember correctly. Once you got above there, you could just start throwing your points into dexterity and vitality, and over each Paragon level, you would put 1 point into. I said dexterity and vitality because I played Demon Hunter. It's main stat and vitality. So for a barbarian, it's strength and vitality. Wizard, it's intelligence and vitality. You just put points in those non-stop for as many Paragon levels as you could possibly get. That is, I ever told you the definition of insanity? I mean, it's doing the exact same fucking thing over and over and over and over. Push your greater rift. Farm these legendary gems. Get levels up. Put your Paragon levels into your freaking main stat and vitality and non-stop. That's seriously the most mind-numbing shit I can think of in a fucking video game. It is downright ridiculous. Just as I know, I think Diablo 3 started to set a precedent for shitty action RPG ripoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if Destiny and Division were sort of kind of based off it, but that is seriously the most mind-numbing shit I can think of. The game's combat, like, let's say it now, yes, Diablo 3's combat is good. It's one of the few good things about Diablo 3. But good combat and good gameplay can only make up for shit lack of content and variation for so long before it gets utterly boring as fuck. So, the biggest thing I've seen with Diablo 2's Endgame is that you are farming gear. And it all boils down to the fact that in Diablo 3, gear rains from the sky. The only way you're farming gear is just basically running Greater Rifts over and over again to get that one legendary that basically makes your set OP. So, farming items is... I think in Diablo 2 you could farm specific items in specific areas. You could feel free to correct me on that, but I thought that was a thing. Again, I never played Diablo 2 much. I've never beaten the game. I think I made it through the first act. I never grew up with Diablo 2, so and going to Diablo 2 now I always felt a bit archaic to me, just in terms of its combat, because like I said, Diablo 3's combat is great, but Diablo 2 you could PvP, you could trade items, which is something that Diablo 3 took out. You could trade, you could PvP, you could run through I think it was Bale runs. I know were a big thing in Diablo 2. So the fact that you just never, the end game in that game is just, in Diablo 3 is just so bad. All you can do is farm greater rifts, farm experience, and farm Paragon levels. It's goddamn mind numbing. And power creep, as I mentioned earlier, another big problem with Diablo 3. And it really comes down to the fact that there are 13 difficulty levels. 13. Why are there 13 difficulty levels? I thought the monster powers were bullshit. When I heard they were adding 3 difficulty levels, at first it's like, okay, it's kind of cool. At least I'll be able to do stronger stuff without going to a greater rift level. But Jesus Christ, that is insane. There's no reason for it. Every patch, it's just something gets buffed. Some set gets buffed. They add difficulty levels. They haven't done that. They add the 3 difficulty levels. Oh, when was that? I think it was last fall, maybe? Last summer, last fall. Shit, I actually probably haven't played Diablo 3 in 2 years. But, because I never played with the 13 difficulty levels. So, it was just they're exploiting, they're feigning content. They're not adding content, so they add difficulty levels, so you can continue to feel stronger. So in the end, you get what I'm calling Math Simulator 2017, and that is count the number of digits that are popping up on your screen when you hit something at fucking Torment 13. There's gotta be, you're hitting in billions, trillions, probably at top tier T13, you're probably hitting for quadrillions at this freaking point. It's try and figure out how your fucking loaded for bear fucking explosive shot on your demon hunter is hitting for 10 fucking trillion damage. How the hell? I mean, I've actually seen, and this was before T13, freaking the game actually hitch or like take a second, and it was noticeable to do math. Like, it was a real quick, like it could have just been the game lagging, but I always saw it because of how my character played the oh Christ, what the fuck is it called? The multi-shot set Unhallowed Essence. Because of how many enemies it would, like a big swarm of enemies pops up and I unload on them, and just so many massive numbers are popping up at once. It's like, it's becomes hollow after a while that you're doing billions worth of damage because of basically inflation. So I never understood the point of that. They seriously need to fix their math and condense 13 difficulty levels to like 6 or 5, because I don't understand why you need 13 difficulty levels at all. So I actually got through this a lot faster than I was planning on. So Diablo 3, again, maybe it's not the worst game I've ever played, but it sure as hell could be a fuck of a lot better. It's not necessarily a bad game, but it tries to be Diablo. If it didn't have the Diablo name on it, I really think people would accept it a little bit better, because let's face it, Diablo 3 had to try and live up to Diablo 2 expectations. Diablo 2 is one of the most influential video games of all time. So the fact that Diablo 3 is Diablo 3, I think seriously kneecapped the fuck out of it at launch. It could have been a lot better with the Diablo name, I should say. It could have been a lot better. If it was a standalone game, I think it would have been accepted a lot better. Yeah, it probably wouldn't have sold as much because, again, it has the Diablo name on it. So it could have been better, though. It could have had more customization, more endgame, less stupid devs that, honestly, I don't think I've ever worked on an action RPG before. But it could have been better, but trying to live up to the expectations of Diablo 2 is probably impossible. It's why we haven't gotten Half-Life 3. After the humongous delay, they're not going to bother with it because it will never. Yeah, it would sell like a motherfucker, but it could never live up to the likes of Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1. That's why it's the Half-Life 3 effect. We're never going to get Half-Life 3 because it could never live up to Half-Life 2, which is one of the most influential FPSs probably of all time. So Diablo 3, yeah, it can be fun for a little while. I definitely won't deny that. The combat is goddamn, it's a great time, but it will get insanely repetitive and really mind-numbing, and you will openly wonder, why the hell is this? Why can't I customize my character's look? Why is there no, why is the gear dropping like fucking crack from the, like candy from the damn sky? the game just makes it rain on you. Why are these sets so overpowered? So it's a good time probably for about maybe like 10 to 15 hours, but after you get fully geared out, you're going to probably wonder where the hell's the rest of it. So that's Diablo 3. It's why I don't think it's a very good game. It's just very basic at the it's just basic. There's no other way to put it. It could have been more, but it's not. So for the next 41 show, I'm going to not talk about a specific game. I'm going to talk about the what I feel are the top 5 game developers, and these are people, not companies. The top 5 individual game developers, the most influential game developers of all time. So that'll be a fun episode. We'll be talking about these game developers and who I think the best ones and most influential ones are. So it'll definitely be interesting. So thanks for watching or listening, and I'll see you next Wednesday.